back to the Teglosive Movie Reviews Podcast. Today I'm joined by Mr. Exploding Mike. How are you doing, Mr. Mike?
I hope I don't explode. I'm doing good. How about you?
I don't know what that face was you were giving me, so
It's like a weird duck face, I guess.
Oh, duck face. All right, Mr. Duck Face Mike, how are you?
Or is this duck face? I'm not too sure. I'm doing well. I mean, it's a little bit warmer now. Here in the Bay, things are warming up, so starting to...
Summertime.
Yeah, starting to get a little bit sweaty,
Does
but...
the ADU have an AC? Or are you sweating it out over there?
Does the ADU have an AC? The answer is yes. I'm just not turning on for electricity reasons.
That's good. That's good. Sweat it out. Sweat it out. Just get all of those toxins out of your body. Allow your sweat to do its normal job. Us Americans don't sweat enough. All right, what movie are we reviewing? Because I'm pretty sure this is not a health show.
We should make a health show. That'd be pretty hilarious. Just trying to give people health advice, and then some official just calling us out and saying, "You guys are idiots and need to shut down your show. What are you doing?"
I mean, we are idiots, so I'm pretty sure if someone who knows anything about movies watch this show, they'd be shutting us down too from the health department.
In our rating system. We watched probably my favorite movie in the whole X-Men franchise, Logan. Came out in 2017 and stars the fantastic Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart.
Hugh Jackman
reprising their roles as Logan, or I guess Wolverine and Professor X. Nick, I wanted to ask you, since, I mean, we could probably predict what my score is going to be since it's my favorite X-Men movie. What would you rate this movie out of 8?
I would rate this movie out of 8 a definite, actually I hadn't thought about this, probably like 6, honestly. I was it's better than most of the X-Men, if anyone recalls. I think the last one we reviewed was Apocalypse, and that one got like a 2 or 3 or something. So this was a big improvement, and I think some of the reason why is they really scaled the story down a lot, and I did appreciate that. And there's some very satisfying endings to some characters that, you know, this might not be a ton of nostalgia in this franchise for me at the moment, but there was definitely some build up to this movie. With getting to watch Professor X develop from this small child to this, you know, feeble man with migraines, and you know his very fitting ending. So so I give it about a 6.5. How about you?
This is definitely a 7 out of me, all because it's all influenced by nostalgia and the acting, the bravery that the director and the writers had to make this movie and shoot it the way they did. And utilize the characters the way they did was fantastic. It was ingenious in my opinion. Telling kind of basically the ending of Wolverine without directly just taking from the comics, taking pieces of it, but kind of having your own way of giving him as his swan song, basically. And also Professor X's as well. They kill him off. I guess spoilers. They kill him off in the middle of this movie.
I know. I was like, oh, wow. So that's how you know this is going to get serious.
One of the most dirty I mean, not dirty in regards to, like, sexual or in terms of demeaning his character. But it was very dirty in terms of just, like, sudden, I guess is what the word I'm looking for. It's very sudden.
Yeah. And at first you think, what is Logan doing? And then you're like, oh, it's Logan's evil doppelganger.
Logan got a haircut. Oh, wait, never mind.
No. Yeah. I should say, I do have a couple big questions about this movie before we dive into stuff. How meta is this supposed to be? Because, like, they have X-Men comics in the X-Men universe, and, like, my whole brain just stopped working when I saw that. I was like, what is going on here? So, answer me that. What's going on there? Is that... just okay, nobody knows. All right.
I think it was a way of explaining. It was a way of providing tension, I think, between Logan and his daughter in regards to she's trying to get to a location that in a comic she finds is Eden, or a place of safety, and he's just like, this is a comic written by some dude in New York and just trying to get a quick buck off of people. Like, this is all fake, or even if some of it's real, it's all altered. So I'm not too sure canonically how that goes. I don't think in the comics they've got comics of themselves, or maybe they do. But it was definitely, I think it was just more of a way to drive a wedge between these characters. And maybe open up Logan a little bit more, just because this place doesn't actually exist, because the comics made it up. It became real because all these people believed in it. So there's kind of a way of...
Interesting.
There's still hope at the end of the day as long as you believe in what you're trying to do. If you want to take that message away, if we're getting real deep.
Deep and philosophical on the show. Those are the two words that most people would describe our show with.
Oh, yeah. The New York Times rates us 3.5 out of 5. Deep and philosophical, but doesn't get to the point right away enough.
Wow. I guess I should read the Times more often then. Another big question, and I know this is probably my fault / not watching the whole franchise, but what happened in New York? Because Professor X and Logan referenced something happening in New York. And I know the DC incident with Magneto was the driving factor in the Apocalypse movie, but it seemed like something major happened in New York, because a couple times both Logan and Professor X referenced what went down in New York can never happen again. What was that? Did I miss something? Or
no, so that? I think that was another amazing thing about this movie. In the past movies, they exposition all over the place. They're like, oh, long ago this happened, or remember last week this happened, I said this one thing, and this, they exposition it as something happened, but they don't go out of their way to make a flashback or explain every single detail. Okay. They provide a little bit of mystery to it. But if you need a bigger explanation, it was more of Professor X got old, had a seizure, and ended up somehow killing all the X-Men, which is why we don't see any X-Men. And then also with the fact that Stryker's son, Dr. Rice, I guess, also killed off all the X-Men too, or not all the X-Men, all the mutants as well, with chemical or genetic warfare, basically. So between Dr. Rice and Professor X, there's basically no more mutants besides the ones that Dr. Rice made, and then maybe some others have sprouted up.
So I do got to ask you this now, because this is another huge question in my mind. As I've said a few times, I've watched half of Logan before. I finally know where I ended in the Logan saga before my movie theater ran out of power, and my friend and I decided to
where'd that stop?
The rest of the movie. It stopped for me when they were having dinner with the family, and so I didn't see any of the carnage after that. And so that was just out of left field for me. I mean, I kind of felt it coming watching this movie, where it's like, oh boy, these people are way too nice. We're not even like, we have an hour and a half left here. Something's happening. And yeah, so they were like having dinner when the movie theater's power died that one time. So that was quite a shock for me. But because of that, I was kind of already looking for this one character. It's the albino character. What's his name?
Caliban.
Caliban. Okay, cool. So
he's played by Stephen Merchant, who is a fantastic actor.
It was a really, really good acting. But I was kind of expecting that the Caliban character to be more in the other movies that I was going to watch. So I guess, was he in other movies, or is this also just kind of a random thing, or do we know his backstory, or
just a different character that popped up? I think I keep on praising this movie, but they just bring this character in. They give him really no introduction besides he's an albino, but he also has...
I'm all in support of this no introduction, because Apocalypse dude got like way too much introduction here, so I'm all in support of this. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything.
Definitely, yeah. He's just some tracker albino guy that somehow got roped up into taking care of Professor X.
Yeah. Him and Logan went back and forth like an old married couple for a little while.
I thought that was a little bit fun. Like,
that's fun.
There isn't that much comedy in this movie, like blatant. It's all either in a little bit of some of the actions or a little bit of the conversation, but it doesn't really pop up too much. And some of that dialogue between Caliban and Logan was times of levity, which was funny. Not really funny, but it was a great way to provide comedy in a very grim future. What do you think? This is, I forget what year it is.
2029.
It's 2029, so it's technically not too far from today.
So that was actually going to be the next thing that I was going to bring up here, so I think we're thinking on the same wavelength. This is probably, out of all of the future movies that I've ever seen, this is probably my favorite setting in the future. It feels so real, as far as it being because like everyone thinks, oh, 1980s, they were thinking the future is in 2015, we're gonna be flying around in cars with Doc Brown, and in the future with the Terminator, we thought it was all gonna be this and that, and it never ends up being like that, and it always just feels like real life. Little things change, but it just feels like real life. And honestly, the big things to change are the car designs. So I feel like this movie was just like, yeah, everything's gonna be the same, except some of the cars are gonna look a little different. And I really appreciated that a lot. Like, it felt very gritty, very real. All of the scenes in El Paso in Mexico and Oklahoma City where it was just all dusty and dirty and you just saw, it just felt so real and tangible. It didn't feel like this sci-fi future where it's almost hard to, get emotionally connected because you just don't have a connection with the sterile white rooms of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, I just felt so connected to all of the environment and scenery that they had down there. Beautiful work. Also, like, it was very smooth how they didn't like have some, like, the very beginning opening shot, like the with, like, Mexico or El Paso, 2029, Logan's lair or whatever. Like, they didn't do that. They just brought it up naturally through the dialogue, and it's like mentioning that his car was a 2024, whatever it was.
Chrysler.
And
it was a
Chrysler.
No, was it Chrysler?
Okay.
Yeah, it was a 2024 Chrysler, which I thought was pretty hilarious because it's a Chrysler limo, but it's an EV, or at least it looks pretty EV with the front grille and kind of the interior on the front. You'd assume something built in 2024, and with maybe, I don't know. In 2017, there was the rise of electric cars. We had the Model S kind of becoming a little bit more prominent, and we had the Model 3 on the way. So maybe they took a
wow, Mike, you know a lot about EVs. You should start an EV podcast.
I don't need to start one, thankfully, but I appreciate the encouraging words. I loved how they set this movie. They didn't put it like in 2050, where Wolverine. I mean, again, it's a little bit confusing as well to me that somehow Wolverine got really old within 12 years from 20. Well, I guess maybe not 12 years. I guess when did Apocalypse take place in the future? I forget. Or maybe Days of Future Past. Anyways, he looks really old in this, and then Patrick Stewart looks really old too. Yet, it's only in 2029, but we have very real type scenarios like Oklahoma City still kind of looks like Oklahoma City. Yeah. El Paso doesn't look like times changed there at all. For obvious reasons. Along with going through the border. That looked like a very typical border passing, besides the guy kind of grilling you on questions. Though I guess Logan's been through it so many times, and he's also driving a limo. There's not too many questions besides, are you carrying anyone important? No? Okay.
It seemed like he knew the guard. The guard was just like, because it seemed like he went up and down pretty frequently.
Well, yeah, he was hiding Charles on the other side of the border while he did work.
Yeah.
So...
Anyway, definitely. I love the setting. Honestly, probably one of my favorite parts about this movie. The biggest praise I have for it is definitely reserved for the fact that they didn't go all out on a lot of things. They felt very restrained, especially with the setting. They went to real cities. It felt real. It felt tangible. I saw myself there. I wasn't, having to imagine what it would be like to live in the future of Days of Future Past, or, imagine what it would be like to live back in the 70s or 80s with some of these other X-Men things. It just felt so real. And like, out of any one of the futuristic sci-fi movies, I think that when we get to 2029, we'll be looking at this one and saying, wow, that looks surprisingly close to what we got.
You know where it wasn't restrained, Nick? The gore.
The gore and the language, yeah.
They finally gave an X-Men movie a rated R rating, which did wonders with the Wolverine character, because we already got a few F-bombs with him a couple times, and just his powers are quite literally claws coming out of his hands and him slicing people in half. And straight out of the get-go in this movie, you got Logan just trying to sleep in his limo, and then you got some ne'er-do-wells trying to steal the wheels and the titanium lugs off of it, and then he just comes out just being like, go away, go somewhere else, and he gets shot. And then goes
and
into
then they
a
just
rage.
keep stealing the wheels, and then he like stands up like, oh, you guys don't know who you're messing with. But honestly, like one of the biggest critiques that I had with, Logan in the past was he's just kind of like this all-powerful character. I think whatever that one happened in Japan was kind of just like, okay, we know he's not going to die. We know, okay, how's he weak? This is not a weak character. This is an invincible character. But here they showed Logan in a very, very fascinating way. Like, at the beginning he still has some healing abilities, but they gradually get worse, and at the end he is immortal again, and then like he dies quickly after that. And it's like that was a very satisfying arc for me to watch, because I've kind of watched this whole franchise thinking, yeah, out of all of these characters, Professor X is cool, Magneto is cool, but like Logan's practically immortal. Like, he's just like not gonna die. And so what's the thing again with the bullet, the unobtainium bullet or whatever that thing was with the metal?
The adamantium bullet. What they were calling back to was the first movie we watched in this whole entire series, X-Men Origins.
Okay.
Where, if you remember, Stryker in that movie had a whole bunch of adamantium bullets, and I think shot Logan, and it didn't go through his skull because he had an adamantium skull. But it reset his mind or whatever, and I guess Logan found one of those bullets at some point, whether he stole it from Stryker at some point in one of these timelines, because he's been through like 2 that we've seen at this point, or 3 maybe. But he kept it just in case he wanted to go.
Wanted to kill himself.
Yeah.
And that was really powerful. Like, could you imagine living that life, like, since the 1850s, basically, of like nothing but war?
And yet, for some reason, in 2029, he gets really old, even though he's basically young for hundreds of years.
So I guess that was kind of the question going on with this bullet, is also the metal in him is adamantium. And so how did that not kill him sooner? Or is that just kind of plot hole that everyone ignores? Or is that just something they explained with science?
Yeah, so that's kind of... I'm not too sure where he would shoot himself with the adamantium bullet. Probably in the heart, right? If he's losing his healing factor and he shoots himself in the heart with adamantium bullet, maybe that does it. Or maybe he shoots in a specific spot in his head and it gets him. But in terms of what's killing him in this movie is kind of a little bit of the mystery for me, because they don't abruptly say it to you. The closest they get is some doctor in that one city who's kind of just like, hey, you're sick, you should get yourself checked out. Who cares if you're a mutant and like you're one of the last ones? It's fascinating that you are. Get yourself checked. And he's like, no, I'm gonna die. My theory is that either the metal in him, the adamantium, is slowly corroding and killing him. Either that or because you would think, okay, he got this stuff in him recently, right? Because Stryker put it in him, and he's had from the late 90s all the way until now with this adamantium skeleton could be corroding him. Either that or what was the other thing? Oh, there's one theory that he still had some of the venom in him from the Wolverine movie, from the Viper Lady. And it was still kind of weakening him.
Interesting.
Either the venom or a robot or something like that. There's many different theories, I think. I kind of like to think that his skeleton started corroding and made him sick.
Yeah.
Because
I kind of like that too.
He was kind of coughing blood and he was really tired. And even in some scenes, his blade wasn't even coming out of his hands fully, and he was having to pull it out. And so...
Wow.
I'm not too sure.
Crazy.
But it was a very fantastic way that they portrayed him. Or at least they put him in a new light that made him fascinating. They didn't make him invulnerable and invincible. They made him very mortal. And even more mortal, they gave him a child to take care of.
Yes.
Along with
I was
Professor
just
X.
about to find a good transition to Laura here. I really liked this character. This is probably... Is she now the Wolverine? Or are they going to keep making these movies? I know Hugh Jackman and what's-his-face are done. But anyway, like I feel like I'm really interested in this Laura character. Like she's pretty interesting as far as having a soul. Like it feels like Logan kind of just buried his humanity deep down, because he was having to deal with all of this trauma, right? Killing all these people across all of these centuries with all of this pain and suffering, and anyone he loved died. It's like, how do you even maintain your humanity with that? And here we see Laura, who's very much still human. She's very social, and obviously she doesn't talk at the beginning, and she seems to be antisocial. But when you see her at the end, she's very much a leader. She's very much social, with her the other mutants that she's comfortable with, and at the end with Logan and Professor X, and very defensive over them as well. This is a really well done character. Just kind of having her be introduced very nonchalantly, almost just like in the back window of a car driving away, and then have Professor X kind of hype her up a little bit, and just that whole realization that she's like Logan's daughter was kind of cool. So
they give a little tease to that right at the very beginning with her having claws, and you're like,
yeah,
ooh,
yeah.
Like, who is she? Where'd she come from? And then they give the reveal of, it's Logan's blood. So technically, you're the father, but you didn't really do anything with anyone. Yeah, I have to say, where she kind of sold... You're not wrong. I'd have to say, the line that probably got me in this whole entire movie that really made me love her was, of course, that moment where she first speaks. Where... Logan's just like, all right, let's get in this Bronco right after the doctor says, go check yourself out. He's like, no. They get in the Bronco and they're getting ready to go, and he's kind of just like, all right, I guess I'll take you to the border, or no, it was something. Maybe it was thank you for saving me. That's what it was. It was basically thank you for saving me. And she's just like, de nada. He's just like, wait, what? Hold on, you gotta talk this whole time? And then she starts like going off on him. Yeah. Just like telling him off like, hey, you're gonna take me to the border in Canada. And he's just like, shut up.
Yeah, shut up now. Too much talking. Turn it off.
Turn it off. I want you to talk, now I don't want you to talk. And it was pretty another funny comedic moment, but it definitely sold me on her at that point of just like, okay, I could get invested in this character, and she can probably carry the Wolverine title. So you asked that initially, is she the new Wolverine? Yes, maybe. In the comics, X-23 exists. She has her own comic book run and everything. In terms of...
Wait, hold on. Logan's X-24. How did that work?
He is X-24.
No, was he X1?
No. X-24 is the bad Logan that we see in this movie.
Oh, right. Sorry.
We have Dr. Rice saying, X-24, get back here. Come. Come, dog. Come.
He's like a dog. I'm like, jeez.
Just go and grab the child and go back to the van. Why do you have to...
Exactly.
You can just keep on treating him like a robot at this point. I don't know why you have such a need to have him come like a dog. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, I think the idea was if they wanted to do any more with Laura's character, they could. But I think this was around the time where Fox was signing stuff off with Marvel.
Okay.
And so it left the idea open for doing an X-23 movie. But then with their assimilation of their characters into the Marvel Universe, in which they'll do at some point in the near future, hopefully, there is a possibility that Marvel could call her back and have her play as Logan, or not Logan, as the Wolverine. It'd be cool. It'd be smart. I think it'd be using their assets fantastically and in a very ingenious manner, because you already have a movie explaining her origin. The only thing you'd have to explain is how she got to the Marvel Universe, but you're already doing that with all the other X-Men characters.
Yeah, so. Quicksilver just appearing.
Yeah, Quicksilver, but then also getting Professor X and Magneto.
Have you seen Loki yet? I know this isn't related. Have you seen any of the Loki stuff
I
yet?
have seen Loki, yes.
Okay, I haven't.
Okay.
Is it good? Should I waste my time?
It's pretty entertaining. Okay. The wife and I love it.
I'll add it to the list. All right, cool. We'll get off that for a second. But
I mean, it is partially related with some of the things that they cover in Loki.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, yeah, so X-23, really cool if she came back in the Marvel Universe. I would be a really big supporter of having her there. I think the actress is fantastic. And then enough time has passed to where she's a little bit more mature, and so you can get a little bit more growth with the character and explain a little bit of how things went in Canada if they want to do that. Or they just kind of treat her as Logan, where she just exists. She has these adamantium claws, and she's very powerful, and she has some witty dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How on earth does this multinational, multi-billion-dollar government contract subsidized company not be able to get into Canada? I'm sorry.
Apparently, the border just stops everything except
all the
for
bad
little
things.
kids.
All the bad things only happen in the United States. Canada is perfect. Last I checked, our Northern Hat friends. So maybe that's the logic that they're going off here. But I just thought that was kind of funny. Like all these bad guys just standing across the border, like.
I mean, we don't even get that scene, do we? Because they all die.
They're dead. But
it's a big chaotic mess of people randomly running through the forest for some reason instead of just staying on the vehicles, or just having the drones follow them and staying in the vehicles. Why is Dr. Rice here this whole time? We have no clue. Like, he has to be there for X-24 for some reason. Is he like the remote control? Like.
I don't know.
There's a lot of questions that are garnered in this, but whatever. And then I don't think we even see the kids on the other side of the border. We only see them nearby a lake in the pass that leads to the border. So we never actually see them get into Canada, but we assume that they get there.
Can we talk about X-24 for a second here and like how brilliant of a character this is, just from a purely writing reason? Who's more immortal than Wolverine?
Wolverine,
exactly. And so how do you kill Wolverine? With Wolverine. And this was it did not feel heavy-handed at all. It felt so logical with the plot. Like, of course, if these child mutants have too much of a humanity in them, of course you're going to make a robot, or a soulless, I think is what they called it, but like non-human feeling organism, I guess. And what are you going to base that off of? Who's the best X-Man? Logan, right? And so it makes perfect sense that this is a clone of Logan. And just watching them both go at it twice, and one who is like Logan in his prime and even hyped up on some like even more killer whatever green stuff in his neck, and then like juxtaposition that with like the downtrodden Logan who like limps when he's walking. Like, this is Wolverine. He's self-healing. Why is he limping everywhere, right? Like, it was such a cool juxtaposition, and showing that this character that we've grown to love, Logan, is not powerful enough to destroy what he used to be. And I think that was a good way to show his character's decline in context. So
just how he's changed, right? Because he used to be like that. He used to be a murder machine. But now he's gained more human life into him. He's become more emotional and also have more memories. But as a sacrifice, you could maybe say, he's not as strong. But yeah, I think the scene that really gets me in one of those fights is where they're fighting, and I think Logan's arm goes up to like block a hit, and then X-24 comes in with an armpit stab. I'm like, ooh.
I felt that one too. I was like, oh,
jeez. Like, of all the places to get him, like the back sucks, the leg sucks, but the armpit, ugh. Yikes.
I really did enjoy the fight scenes between the two Logans. As much as I'm not a huge fan of gore, I don't think this one was overly gory, and it was just kind of fun to watch two really powerful characters beat it out to the death twice in this movie. Like, Logan should have died the first time, for real, if it wasn't for the dude in the truck who literally came out of nowhere. I was just like, I hadn't seen it before, right? So I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh, he's like about to die here. What? Like, what's her, the X-23, the girl?
Laura.
Laura. Yeah, she's handcuffed, so she can't help right now. And what's gonna save Logan here? He can't save himself. It's just out of nowhere. It's like,
I find it very interesting how X-24 stabs the whole family, all of them, and the only one that kind of gets up is the guy, the old guy who's just like, okay, you guys suck. You killed my family. I'm going to run you over. He even tries killing Logan, which I thought was a really dark point. And even more darker is that he pulls the trigger and nothing happens, and then he dies. It's like, whoa. He really did not care for these people at all. Like, he wasn't recognizing that Logan was a good guy, or at least tried helping. It was just...
I can't blame him. I really can't.
I can't either. That was also one
I
of the
don't care how
scenes.
many horses Professor X calmed down or how many wells Logan helped turn back on. If one of your enemies comes and murders my family in front of me, I don't know how happy I'd be.
That well made no sense to me. My wife brought it up too. She's like, wait, okay, so there's water jutting out of everything, and they tighten one or two bolts, and then suddenly the water just stops coming out of all the orifices, and it's fine. Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how engineering works, right? If there's just
that's
one
not
or two
engineering,
bolts
that's
that are
plumbing.
off everything. Engineering, plumbing, hey, same thing. I'm sure that's what the people who designed this set were thinking.
What'd you?
Man.
This is something that I didn't realize until I watched it again. The last time Professor X uses his powers is to get some horses off the highway because of some dumb FSD trucks that can't drive
we've got to talk
correctly.
about those self-driving. They're just their response to everything is not to brake, just says, "Look out, use caution, look out."
Caution, caution. Death.
Oh my gosh.
What's
No
interesting
wonder
is
why
Volvo
self-driving
came out with a semi that kind of looks like that. It just doesn't have the the storage going over it. It's more of a puck and then the big canister or container, which looks even more ridiculous. But I thought the design of these was a little bit ingenious, and it was a way to kind of convey time has changed, but at the same time, it's still
time
a little.
Still hasn't changed.
Yeah, it still hasn't. Like
we're still using these rusty Connex boxes.
We all know that,
it's not that futuristic.
Computers aren't perfect. They make mistakes, especially with self-driving cars with what we have today. And to just see that plastered on the screen as just caution, or
Caution.
all dirty and old looking.
Whatever it said. Look out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really did like that scene. And Professor X, like everything about Professor X in this movie was just so cool to watch. Like watching this guy Professor X just deal with all of his skeletons throughout all these movies.
New quesalupa from Taco Bell. Come get it today.
It's like, what is he tuned into a TV channel here or something? What is going on here? It was just so satisfying because we've seen him broken before, right? Like we've seen him on drugs or whatever he was on, heroin or whatever a while ago.
Some
I can't
70s
remember.
drug.
He was on some needles or something. Anyway, maybe it wasn't heroin. I don't know. Whatever it was, he was on it and he was pretty broken. And we got to watch that again, but it wasn't something that he was doing to himself. It was something that his body was doing to his brain, or his brain, I guess, was deteriorating. Whatever. He was dying. Losing his mind, literally and figuratively. But it was so touching whenever his humanity was there. Like, it was kind of entertaining to watch this really smart guy, go recite a commercial or whatever. And then just, like, the juxtaposition with, like, where am I? Who are you? What are you doing to me? You're the person who puts me to sleep.
What a disappointment you are.
I know. Oh. Gosh.
Yeah. We definitely get a different version of Charles in this. It's still familiar
the waves
Charles.
Of emotions there.
Yeah. And then also just you get the little one line from oh goodness, what's his name? The guy with the robot arm, Pierce, I think. Is just like, oh yeah, the government labels his brain as a weapon of mass destruction. You're like, whoa. I mean, that's probably true, but geez. It's no wonder that Logan's hiding
after
him
that New York incident.
Yeah, but then you get this wonderful, like you said, waves and rainbows of Charles that we've seen in the past and we've seen in the present. I guess now we're in the future or whatever. Days of Future, Past, Future. I don't know where we're at. The timelines are always weird with these movies, but it was nice to see some Charles leaking through in this movie, but still kind of signaling the end of his character of just he can't go on anymore, especially when Logan started listening to him halfway through the movie, where Logan's like, someone will help these people with the horses, and Professor X is just like, someone has come, we're here. And then Logan's like, okay, I guess. And then when it's time to leave the house, Logan's like, all right, let's go. And the professor's like, we can wait until tomorrow, it's okay. Logan's like, okay, I guess.
Well, because at the same time, Logan is like tired and falling apart and like it's so obvious he needs rest. His body is not what it used to be, and he needs that kind of rejuvenation time. You know, I think that's what the hospital provided. You know, or the doctor's clinic or whatever. You know, he had some time unconscious where 23 was driving him around. Which is kind of funny, by the way. The poor guy with his dog. That wrecked his day.
Dude was just going fishing in his old Bronco. Think how old that Bronco is. I mean, 2029, and that thing looked like it was one of like the original set of the Broncos.
Dude, yeah. And they find it like in some desert near North
Dakota
gone. Or whatever. How confusing.
They won't find it. Yeah. It's gone in the middle of the desert where they'll never find it unless a government somehow tracks it down, which... No one's going to be finding this old man's Bronco.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah, so, everything with Professor X was exactly what I wanted the end to be. Like, I think going into this, I'd obviously seen the first part of it, and so, like, I knew Professor X isn't doing well. Like, something needs to wrap this up. And kind of killing him off halfway through the movie, like, kind of surprised me. I was not expecting it. And I was just enjoying the touching moment of Professor X. I honestly can't remember what he was saying, but he was monologuing for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes about, you know, everything that they did and what he wished he did and how happy he was and fulfilled with his life. And I was just like, oh, I love Professor X. And then it was just like, and I was like, what are you doing, Logan? And then it was the evil Logan. I was like, oh.
I think what also
climax.
What also drives me to give a 7 out of 8 in this movie is the scenes following this, not the big fight scene. I mean, that was pretty good, especially with all the gore of X-24 being plowed into some huge spiky thing. That was a visual masterpiece, I guess.
Getting shot in the head many times.
Yeah, but it was after when Logan's burying Professor X, and you just see him all broken, and all he can say is, he's got water, and that's it. He's got water near him. And every single time I watch this movie, it's like, don't cry, Michael, don't cry. It's not Toy Story levels of, like, sadness or joy. I'm not happy about Professor X dying, but it's very much just, you see Logan at his most vulnerable in this movie, especially with losing his best friend. This guy who he got wrapped up in for many, many years of his life, and then just to see him go because some, not really freak accident, but more of just letting the bad guys get the upper hand by his own mistake. Definitely hurts.
And I really loved, we backtracked just a few seconds timeline in the movie wise, but back to the part in the hotel where he like freezes everybody. Like, I think that was one of the cooler moments. Like, this works. This works. On
I think they use
levels.
the sound design fantastic as well. They don't fill it too much with like orchestral masterpiece of music. It's very quiet at times with a lot of bass, and then as Logan gets closer and closer to Charles, the bass starts rising a little bit more, and maybe they add a little bit of sound in there, some eerie sounds.
Yeah.
And you get some cool, it's like pseudo slow-mo shots, right? Because it's all in real time.
Almost Quicksilver.
It's almost Quicksilver, but like it's all real time with Logan trying to get to Professor X, and he's stabbing all these people who are frozen, watching.
Who are like, their eyes are moving though.
Yeah, they can see what's happening, but they can't do anything.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool scene. On par with like the Quicksilver just like running around smoting everyone, because I just loved it when they got the serum in Professor X and everyone just drops. It's like, oh.
Except for one.
Yeah, that's one way to get...
One dude survives, but when X-23 kills him.
Yep. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. I was also surprised...
Lots of gore in this movie. Like, I'm honestly surprised how desensitized to it I am at this point with the X-Men movies.
It's all prepared you for the next movies that we're watching in this X-Men franchise. I guess I'm trying not to... I don't want to spoil too much.
More gore than Logan? I can't imagine this. Oh, no.
The rest of the movies we have in our lineup, Nick, they're all rated R.
Oh, no. Well, I guess Kronk's New Groove will help me a little bit. Be a nice reprieve from the death Oh boy.
Just gotta get that big thumbs up from Puppy.
Squeaker, squeak, squeak, squeaking. Oh boy. So, let's talk about the outside of universe stuff. Is there any like notable, like outside of, I don't know, production stuff that was notable during this or anything like that?
Not really. Besides maybe the fact that Hugh Jackman got pretty skinny in this movie.
Totally.
If you see some of the shots of him exposing his belly and his abs, it's basically all sunken in some parts. I don't know whether a lot of it was CGI, but it looked pretty realistic. But besides that, the only thing of note that I would probably mention is that both Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart are very adamant on not coming back to these characters ever again, which I think is
I see why now.
It's the smartest move, I would say, because they put fantastic effort into these roles and this movie as well, and to come back as their characters miraculously, Professor X is back, or it's Professor X from the past before everything went wrong, it wouldn't really do his character too much justice. It'd kind of just be people being like, wait, how is Professor X back? Where it's maybe a little bit better just to either bring back the young Professor X or just bring in some new blood, some new actors for Professor X. So I think it's...
Yeah, or just 23. Let her just do her own thing.
We don't need Professor X, just bring in 23.
No, 23. She is a leader, she is... 23 is going to be it.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
One thing I did want to mention that did stand out to me in this movie as well, that you maybe don't notice, but Dr. Rice says that he made these Reavers, which are all these soldiers that he works with, all the ones that are rounding up all these X-Men for Transigen. These are all the guys, like Pierce, the guy who has the robot arm. All these guys have robot arms. I'm like, so did Dr. Rice just cut off everyone's limbs and then replace it with an arm because reasons? Or did he put like a chip in their brain to make them comply to things? Are they all just ex-military people who have bad amputations that he's fixed? Like, what did he do with these people? It just was really confusing to me.
I didn't think about that, I guess, yeah.
Just the idea of the fact that like
that one kid who could freeze stuff, like freeze that guy's arm, and then just like broke it off about that at that point. So maybe like all of those guys had an experience with this freezy kid's breath.
Every single one on the right arm. I don't know.
I mean, I can see it. I mean, I don't know. How else do you control that kid? You can't like tape their mouth shut or whatever. I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah. What other things stood out in this movie for you, Nick?
Honestly, it was the character. Just being able to watch these two characters that I've grown to respect over the past few months here. I appreciate their vulnerabilities and just I think the writing was really good, and I think it wasn't really good in the way that The Emperor's New Groove is really good, where like everything is just so perfect. I think that this writing is a lot more under the radar. Like it doesn't stand out as like having a really well written script, but it really does when we dissect it like this. Like X-24 is like the perfect antonym to Logan, and Logan's decline. Yeah. And antithesis, thank you. Yeah, antithesis. My goodness, I need to brush up on my vocabulary.
I mean, he could be a word. He could be an antonym.
Whatever. Yeah, antonym. I mean, he's just a made-up character, so we can make him into whatever we want. Yeah, phenomenal writing. I think that's the biggest praise that I'm gonna give this. Just with the character development and with the time, that the time period also is derived from the writing. 2029 was a perfect time for a futuristic film. Felt very real. Yeah, definitely. Where's this franchise going now?
Yeah, so that's always the question of where does this go? It's kind of stuck in Marvel's hands with where it goes at this point. but it'll be interesting to see what they do.
8-episode season on Disney Plus.
Hey, it's pretty
X-23.
I'd say pretty ingenious with what they've done with Disney Plus, right? They take these side characters that didn't have enough time in the movie to like kind of explore, and or like why would you give this person their own movie when people aren't really interested in them? But they give them a TV show, and suddenly you get people flocking to it, and they're like, "Wow, I love Wanda," or "I really love that speech from Sam Wilson," or "Loki's back, woot!" We didn't really need a movie, but the TV show's pretty good too. I think if it would be not a bad way to introduce the X-Men with a TV show, but I think what people are looking for with introducing the X-Men is some big movie of multiverse proportions, whether it's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, or Spider-Man No Way Home, which is not theorized, but suspected to be a multiverse movie, or anything else, maybe even Loki. But it would be an interesting way to bring them all in. I did want to ask Nick, what did you think of the ending, how they wrapped this up in this movie? Kind of giving Logan a bit of the middle finger through his body.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't take it that way. Yeah. Well, I will say this is probably the only end that Logan could have had. I cannot imagine a better ending, I guess. Besides just saying, he died and off screen. But like as far as on screen deaths, this is the most satisfying version of it I think I could ever think of. Because you have him tying up all of his loose ends in his life, Professor X, all of the X-Men, he finally helps do something worthwhile for humanity, not just a killer basically, or trying to protect one or two people. Like, no, he's and it's not the scale, I guess I should say. Apocalypse definitely had more scale than this as far as world-ending events, but this felt very, intimate, I guess. Maybe that's the right word. It was an intimate ending. It wasn't a, Magneto, throwing him into the ocean ending. It was intimate and personal, and I really, really liked that. And yeah, him being able to talk with 23 for a few seconds there at the end, I was close to tearing up. Like, I never thought I'd say that in an X-Men movie, but I was close. I didn't, but I was like, oh, oh, sweet. Yeah, I don't know. And when she turns the cross into an X, I was just like, whoever had that idea gets a golden watch, because that was gold right there. Turning the cross into an X at the end.
That one kid who's
Perfect
just
branding.
like, let's make it a little bit more religious because he deserves peace.
Yeah.
And then Laura's just like, he doesn't deserve peace in that regard. He was an X-Men. But I mean, the girl just chopped her dad off of a stump.
Yeah.
Holy moly. How dark can you get? You get your own
Evidently
daughter
Deadpool's supposed to be darker, so I'm not going to ask that question.
I think maybe not. I wouldn't argue that Deadpool is darker. It's definitely not afraid to get gory. But just the sheer idea of the fact that a clone of yourself takes you, stabs you all over, and then shoves you onto a stump to where your daughter then chops you off the stump, and you
shoots him with an unobtainium bullet in the head.
Adamantium, yeah.
Blows. Yeah, whatever. I get the Adam, and then I'm like, yeah, whatever that thing is.
Unobtainium.
The bullet.
At least
silver bullet that's not a silver bullet.
At least it was used. Better than just like, here's this thing that might be a big plot point and then just doesn't get ever used. At least they utilize it in a fantastic manner. They use it to kill.
To be honest, I didn't really see it coming. Like I didn't see. I thought he was gonna die on that stick from the dude just wailing on him. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it coming at all. And then it was just like, he's there, and then his head isn't there the next minute, and you're just like, what? Oh, she did the thing. Ooh. Yeah.
And he finally gets to experience death, finally. I said finally twice.
Yeah.
He gets this ultimate experience that he's seen everyone, all the eyes that he's looked into, whether he was stabbing them or hugging them or watching them pass. He gets to live that. He gets to be a part of that process, which was a nice... It was a great way to close it out, right? It wasn't just him exploding and dying. It was him slowly drifting away and feeling just of letting go. And I think that's what really delivers in this movie as a character building and character bookend moment of the fact that he gets to experience all the things that he didn't really get to, but it's not like he went on a fun spree at the end, kind of like some shows or movies that come to mind where it's like, oh, and then, or I guess Up, right? And then Grandpa, and I totally forget what his name is.
Russell
and Mr. I forget. Fredrickson, thank you.
You call yourself a Pixar fan?
Oh,
Imposter!
My goodness.
So sus.
It's not like Mr. Fredrickson where he's like, I get to experience all the things I didn't get to experience because I stayed and worked my whole life. It was more of a quick bookend for Logan, which I appreciated, though. Imagining Mr. Fredrickson in a Logan movie just sounds even worse. But
I mean, Charles Muntz was practically Logan at being 120 years old, so
yeah,
there's that.
How old was
Maybe
Logan?
Charles Muntz is Logan.
What?
No, I don't know.
Not even close. Logan hated heights. He would not be in a blink.
That's true. Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Yeah. So this how much is Deadpool gonna ride off of what we've watched so far? I guess that's my biggest question going into the next few movies that we have planned here for anyone who hasn't guessed yet. We're gonna be doing Deadpool.
Deadpool it definitely feels a little bit removed in some aspects. Likely because in the past few movies that Fox produced, it seemed all over the place with the timeline. And so they didn't want to try to fix the timeline in terms of who Deadpool is and what universe he's operating in. They more just address, he's in this universe. But he's a fourth wall breaking character. It's what he's really known for in the comics. And some animation as well. So we get a lot more... Oh, goodness. A lot more references, not just to Wolverine, but other things, whether audience has seen with their own eyes and that he's calling back on, or it's just other things. So I would say, there's going to be some, not homages, but some continuity there. But Deadpool definitely feels like just, I don't know, a different shade of this reality that we're looking at. It doesn't take place in the same time that Logan does. I think it takes place years earlier. But I guess you'll have to see to understand.
Okay. So I guess the reason why I was asking that question is, like, am I looking for continuity points watching this next movie?
No.
So it doesn't sound like it. Good
I
to
mean,
know,
you don't really need to. They're pretty on the nose with a lot of things, but some of the other things go over your head if you're not paying attention. So I would say
like
dialogue
every Ryan Reynolds ad ever.
Dialogue is definitely something you want to pay attention to, but it won't be too hard with Deadpool talking for 90% of the film. So,
cool.
It'll be pretty fun. I'm really thinking you're going to enjoy it from the universe that we've kind of built up and watched through, to the characters that we've grown to love, and all of kind of like the historical stuff that we've seen, and kind of the theme of this universe. I think Deadpool is definitely the icing on the cake. And
well, exciting.
It's going to be a lot of bloody icing.
Ooh. Yeah.
Those aren't strawberries.
Those aren't strawberries. Oh. Oh no! Oh no! Ooh. I don't want to know what that's in context with, but yeah.
Nice. Well,
Cool.
Any final thoughts, Mr. Nick?
Yeah, I first want to say thank you, Mike. Like, I think I might have said this a few other times on different shows, but I want to make sure I publicly thank you for having me sit down and watch these movies.
I swear I didn't tape him to a chair, everyone. I swear.
He's definitely not in that corner of the room pointing something at me, with some antimantium bullets.
Antonym bullets.
Antonym bullets. There we go. Mixing up two of Nick's blunders of the evening in one joke. I love it. Yeah, so I want to thank you, Mike, for kind of not curating this, I guess, because I've never been a huge fan of X-Men stuff, and really never even really Marvel. Obviously, I hadn't watched really anything from the X-Men universe until you were like, "What? You haven't seen the X-Men?" I was like, "No." And you're like, "Oh, we're going to fix that." So I appreciate you fixing that, Mike, and doing it in a way that doesn't feel like we're wasting a lot of time, as I know we've skipped probably about half the movies at this point, but I appreciate that. Maybe not. I don't know the exact number, but I appreciate you giving me all this advice and just having these fun conversations. It's been good. I'm looking forward to the next 2 Deadpools, right?
Yes, and I appreciate the kind words. We only skipped 4 movies in this franchise.
Okay. All right.
I mean, the ones that we plan on skipping are 4 of them.
Yeah.
If the audience is interested in what movies we're skipping, it's X-Men 1, X-Men 2, and X-Men 3, along with X-Men Dark Phoenix. X-Men 1, 2, and 3 are kind of the original movies that they start out with. And Dark Phoenix is basically the bookend to the young X-Men people. But I found that we could watch it and it would kind of just be the same words that we would give it for either Origins or Days of Future Past / Apocalypse. Okay. So I felt the ones that kind of hit home, or at least are visual masterpieces, in my opinion, that kind of build the world a little bit more, are the ones that we covered. But maybe you could do the same for me with something. Maybe you could finally get me to watch Inception all the way through.
I think that is going to be the biggest one. I'm going to have to get some toothpicks and pry your eyes open. Make sure you watch all of Inception and don't blink, because if that top stops spinning, then you'll be very confused. Inception people, got the joke. You don't. That's confused. All right.
There's a top.
Yeah. So there's a top. There are lots of tops in Inception. Actually, I guess just one, but you see it multiple times. Anyway, we're not talking about Inception because not for you guys to tomorrow, but tomorrow, Mike and I are going to be reviewing the sequel to what both of us agreed was probably one of the better movies that was animated and not from Pixar, Kronk's New Groove. If you guys want to watch that and be up to date for our next movie review, you can do that. I couldn't find a slide transition from this deep, heavy topic of Logan dying with Professor X to like the funniest movie ever. Maybe I haven't seen it yet, so we'll review that one tomorrow. I appreciate you guys joining us. Mike, do you want to sign us
out? Thanks for joining us, and I hope you all have a good morning, evening, or night. And you can catch us either on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you have any movies that you want us to review, let us know in the comments on, I guess it'd be YouTube, or you could just reach out to us on Twitter. You can find us under the...
Or you can find my address and send me hate mail, that too.
Jeez. I think Nick's just looking for a thumbs up at this point, everyone. But in other words, have a good day.
Bye.